Okay, here we go. So, everyone, this is SynaMax. Today we're talking with Zoc Zabian, aka ZTime. He is the music producer who created Uncivilized G'rooves, the sample library that was used extensively in the first 3 Metroid Prime games by Nintendo. In addition to being a classically trained composer and producer, he's also an audio engineer, video director, photographer, graphic designer, and music educator. He's had a career spanning over 30 years and includes such highlights as performing in Tina Turner's 1994 Affairs European Tour, co-composing a #1 single and album in Croatia, and writing music for clients like BBC, MTV, and the Universal Publishing Production Music Library. He currently resides in Finland and is currently working on his upcoming music and video collaboration project, Finspire. Zoc, thank you so much for being here.
Hey dude, thanks for having me around. Can I quickly comment on that intro? I mean, it sounds like you have read the CV and it's very kind of impressive. But let's put the things down to straight to the normal ground.
Yes.
Yeah, the Tina Turner. I think that even people who went on the concert and actually took the signature from her probably came closer than me. We were a support band in a gig in Zagreb in that European tour in the leg. It was amazing, but I saw her about 2 meters away from me and she said, "Great gig, guys." That's all what I had from Tina. So I wish there was something a little bit, more kind of course, the band and the tech guys, we talk and spend some, time. But, it looks good on the CV, but he wasn't that close like it sounds like. And,
it was 90,000 people, though, right, in Zagreb, right?
There was a lot of people. I don't know. Was it 90? I don't remember. I don't think that stadium, would it be 9? It was the outside stadium, but, we can check. It doesn't matter. It was full. It was crowded. It was a lovely one. It was good to be part of it with the band. And then the one thing that you mentioned, the co-composing a #1 single and album, there were actually multiple singles from the album, and there were actually the second album I also did a couple of songs and that, but I left to England already. So I had some, other also arrangements and things, like when I did the music arrangements and some of that stuff, and some remixes that I did in that country as well. It was still ex-Yugoslavia in those times. That's where it all started.
I guess let's go ahead and talk about how I know you, which is the Uncivilized G'rooves sample library. For those who don't know, as I mentioned in the intro, that a video game that I played growing up, Metroid Prime, happens to use Zoc's sample library, Uncivilized G'rooves. The composer, Kenji Yamamoto, from my research, had a ER1 initially when he started composing for the game, a Korg Electribe ER1, and I did a video about that as well. And I'll put a link in the description for people who want to watch it. But to summarize, I don't know how, but maybe through Krypton or something, found Uncivilized G'rooves, and for all 3 games, the sample library is used extensively, and as a result, it contributes quite strongly to the sound design of those games, and in a very positive way. So when I stumbled upon it, someone pointed out to me, "Hey, this is the sample library used online," and then I was very fortunate to find a copy on eBay. It was absolutely mind-blowing listening to this, because it was like, not only you get to hear the samples in context, but it's a really unique sounding sample library, and that's what I really love about it, because it's the effects on it and everything are very abstract and unique, very industrial, very gritty, and sonically unique in my personal opinion, because they have a very unique characteristic sound. So basically, I guess my first question is to ask you, let's go back here, because the history. So you're from Croatia, but in around 1991 you moved over to London, and then around 2000, you were with Xenon Records and did Uncivilized G'rooves. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So how did the opportunity for you to create Uncivilized G'rooves came about? Like how did did you get involved with Xenon Records and that sort of thing?
Well, it's kind of, actually quite simple. The Xenon Records was run by Colin Davis, who was a father of students of mine, my music students. I had a couple of music students, his daughter and his son. And the second son as well was then, so the both kind of brothers were then again involved in making also music with me. We had like a music production courses where we were producing music. We were making drum and bass, music. And from there we also had the East of Time, the kind of act, which was kind of the reason why the Xenon Records was started originally in the first place. So Max and Ollie Davis, both of them were East of Time. Ollie was a very, very great DJ, and Max was my student, a super keyboard player, and a very good producer as well. So we were basically combining together the time where they were learning how to kind of work in the studio, and this was kind of lessons we actually used to start making those drum and bass kind of tunes, and we released I think a couple at least. And when Colin already had the record label, I had this idea, that I was fascinated by the beats all my life. When my brother was listening some, rock stuff and, some crazy stuff, I was listening to some Billy Cobham, and this kind of stuff, and some blues, I was instantly like, attracted to that kind of stuff. And I always remember when I got the first drum machines, I was picking up what they were doing actually live, I was trying to create that stuff, basically on those rhythm machines. It was quite appalling because there was no swing, and well, there was kind of swing, but always the same, and there was no, the flams and shuffles and all sorts of things. But, as soon as the Ataris came, and I got the first Atari, it was much easier because you could just play the stuff in, and if you didn't quantize it, you really kind of, could have created nice grooves. So the strength in a way, because of my interest in making beats and grooves, was the initial idea. I just wanted to do something different, and, I wanted to keep on doing it for the rest of my life. I loved it. So I just went there. I took whatever I could. I was sampling since a kid. I had the samplers, the old Akai's, still with the keyboard, untouched sensitive. I don't even remember the model. And then, I had the Roland's S330, and then the 770. I still have that one. Unbelievable.
Oh, nice.
Machine. Yeah, and then I had all the Akai's S5000s, 1000s, 2000s, all of those. I had one or the other, and that was the kind of idea. I was always kind of searching for the kind of sound, and when you got those little Electribes, coming out, there was just an amazing box of inspiration. I mean, that was like, so of course, and the MIDI was tight. What was really beautiful is that when you basically made a pattern on the ER1, and you trigger MIDI, out to your synths and samplers, it was much tighter than the MIDI from the Macintoshes in those days. I still think that the Atari, 520 STs and 1040, they were more tighter because they had a built-in MIDI interface. I think they were more tighter. At least they sounded to me tighter than those days what we used, with all sorts of Motus and whatever, those MIDI interfaces.
Yeah, I think Fatboy Slim uses an Atari ST. I'm not sure even to this day or not, but yeah, I could definitely see them being like a MIDI powerhouse for sure.
Very likely. I mean, any hardware, for me, any hardware, kind of beatbox or something that I tried with the MIDI, taking it out, and triggering was, you really get the feel what you want, kind of, how you want it. So it's kind of cool, I like that. But of course, you're losing the momentum of moving the things in those early Electribes, which is now again something else. But we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with this kind of stuff. The point is that love for grooves, and it just started all, and love for sampling, and it's all just started there. And ended there, almost.
No, that's very true. But that's a great segue because talking about the gear that's my next question is, we touched up already on the Korg Electribe ER1 as being like a pretty big component of Uncivilized Grooves. Was there any other gear, that was used, and did any of it had any interesting histories, or was it used by any previous people or anything?
Of course. What I remember, there was another Electribe. I don't remember was it the ES one? Was the sampler? The green one?
Okay.
Well, it was pretty appalling and very difficult to get your sounds in it. I remember with something with the SD card, it was a lot of hassle, but I did it, and I sampled all sorts of stuff, my own sounds, what I made on the Nord Lead 2, and then there was the AN1X, I suppose. There was something, some drum patterns or some things from there, Then from the S5000 libraries, what I had, the Akai something, I sampled again directly to that ES1. And then I was also triggering. So it was kind of like triggered and sampled at the same time. So it was like depending, sometimes I would run the bass drum, and I would trigger the Nord, and there would be another one still playing in somewhere else. It would be just the MIDI cables, and I would be recording and mixing at the same time. And sometimes it was sound taken, already what was sampled, for instance, from Roland 770. I sampled there because it was a really good sounding, still is one of the best sounding samplers, if we're talking about the quality of capturing, So you basically capture there your sample, and then you kind of transfer it via the SD card to the ES1, and then I kind of trigger it there. So, and effect processing was, I think, was it the MPX or MX? MPX, I think, is the one, the Lexicon. And the cheapest zoom that there was, is it 1204 or 1208 or something like that? Those were going for 60, 70 pounds, I believe. Amazing.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely amazing what you can get from it. Everything in the real time. Everything was tweaked in the grooves, kind of like, and basically, recorded. And recorded many takes until I wasn't happy which one was, with the delay or a little bit like that. So it's kind of like a live performance at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I think that really sets out that library from others, is the amount of hands-on automation that with either pitch or filters or, what have you. And it makes those beats breathe with life. They're animated, right?
Well, thanks.
So
thanks.
No,
it was sometimes it was very hard to try to repeat it, for exactly how you liked it in exactly amount, and then you did percussion and you had to do it the same, and it was like okay, but you get there as long as you got in the marginal that it sounded the same to me rhythmically, and that was kind of fun. Yeah. It's a lot of work. 6 months. It took 6 months to make that library. Yeah. Okay. Well, that also includes all the artwork and, going around and trying to print the stuff.
Still.
And, I did everything. I wanted, I wanted just to do, everything how I had it in my head, It was just a silly project. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, that's so funny because Yamamoto-san, when he did Metroid Prime, I only just recently found out about this from the guy who did the sound design for the game, but he had 3 months to do that soundtrack. So you had literally, like, for distribution and production and and artwork and everything, you had twice as much long time of production time. Then so to me that's just like that's pretty. I mean, still 6 months is intense. So
yeah. I think that the whole production of the beats and the samples was spanning in between 2.5 to 3 months. But, you need to understand that there was also a job that I was doing at the same time. So it was not 24/7. It was like, I would say, good chunks of my weeks, production weeks. But still there was maybe 40 hours in a week, 50 or something.
Yeah.
But when you get into experimenting, sometimes you have to give it a time, and you hope that somebody's going to use and enjoy it, and kind of, just get on with the vibes.
Actually, if you don't mind me asking, like, where did in London did this take place? What was the bunker, the studio?
Yeah, the studio is actually quite different than what you have these days. I bought a TAC Matchless. I bought from Simply Red through the contact who was selling, the dealers. So it was Simply Red's. They run it in their rehearsal studio. I believe it was in England, in Manchester or something. I'm not sure about the city, but it was in their rehearsal studio, kind of where they were also recording some demos and the things. So that was the mixing console that I then basically bought and put in my living room. And my living room was my studio. So it was kind of funny because it just fitted, and there was just enough, half a meter there on the side that I can go around and a few things, and it was great. I loved it. It was kind of a solid sounding. When in today's terms, it's like I wouldn't advise anybody to specifically buy it, but
Right.
it had its own sound and I liked it. And then there was the outboard. I used hard to remember, but they were EQs and they were compressors. There was a DBX definitely involved, one of those cheaper units. So not I think it was maybe 266 something from what I recall. I'm not so sure, but that DBX was there, and then there was another one, BSS compressor, and the analog chain was, like I said, those effect processing units as well. And then on the channels, I used to run the things separately on the channels. So I used a lot of the channel EQ because in those days we plugins, we love the digital world, but the plugins when they came, they were fun. There was some great stuff that sounded really, really nice. But, you didn't want to really use an EQ or compressor, at least I didn't, it didn't sound good. So it was not infected by the plugins, let's put it that way. Not yet.
To quote your booklet here, this uncivilized product has been produced in analog friendly environment.
Yeah. I didn't want to kind of push because we love the digital, it just kind of started. But it was certainly an analog, and I still can't, I like my fingers getting warm by touching buttons and certain things. I just love the feel, and it continues from there, I suppose.
No, well, just to add on to that really quick, like the ER one, I was actually jamming with it last night, and it's such a fun machine. You can just quickly make variations on the pattern. You still have it.
It's here hidden behind and nobody sees it. It's still here. And still the original patterns are in there.
Oh no.
Some of the original patterns are still in there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I kept
Oh my God.
I kept it as a memory in one way, all the days when I left the music
business.
My
God. You might have to copy that Sysex data, man.
She said, let's see, it's system exclusive, I suppose. Yeah, I could. Of course I could give it, it's no problem. I love sharing the things, I mean, that sampling CD, they're pirating it and it's available everywhere, and it's like, it's been crazy. You can't chase it down. So what, if everything's already available, maybe we will still do that.
Well, I think we'll have a surprise for the audience later, because there's going to be some really exciting news about Uncivilized Grooves.
Do you have some news?
So, we have news.
You have news. Okay.
This just coming. Just in. But So because that's a whole thing. I don't know if you want to talk about like the piracy aspect of this. If you want to cut this out, that's totally cool too.
There is nothing to talk about. There is nothing to talk about. It's sad that, even somebody comes to the idea to steal. But hey, people steal all sorts of things, so good luck to them, There are many kind and nice people that, that appreciate the work as well. So it evens it out. These days, it's cool. It's cool.
Right. Well, and just like anything in life, there's pros and cons, right? There's the good aspects and the negative aspects. So, but I'll just leave it at that for right now. But
very diplomatic. Yeah, don't start with that one. So it's better to keep it like that.
So, to get back onto the topic here, regards to the library, do you have any favorite loops or samples that you have from the library? And if so, did you have like any interesting or humorous stories about, how these sounds came to be?
I can actually perhaps choose few what I like, kind of what still stayed in my mind, and specifically one of them is the opium, and not because of the name. It's basically the opium. It had this kind of really cool smoothie vibe and everything, and I made a whole song with using that one. I, of course, then reprogrammed the different parts, and I had an interesting thing with that one because I truly like the the rolling stuff and everything. And when I went to the mastering, it was Metropolis mastering. I went there and Colin was also involved there from Xenon Records. We went for the mastering there, and there was this very, I don't know what was the engineer. He was a very, 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 famous in those days. It was on my project. It was on my product. My song that I used, which was under my ZTime artist name, and the song was called No Shame, and he used the opium stuff. And I went there, and the guy started mastering, and he was like, yeah, I said, like, how does it sound? I mean, everything was muffy those days, still, we were not so clear like these days. And, the guy was stretching the things around and using his super prism compressors and converters and limiters, and everything was great. And it was like coming to the, to the little, the candy shop, with all this gear there. And, even the cables were something that you were thinking like, well, that costed a few $1,000s each, euros, pounds. Okay, but the guy was like, yeah, it sounds okay. Yeah, it's okay. But there is this like, stop, some kind of, ultra frequency or something that it's really annoying or something. I was like, dude, I love it, that's exactly what I wanted, and that's not wrong, So, even there, he was trying to notch it away or something, I was like, leave it open, like, so that kind of came from that opium. And then one I really like was the G Father. It's from Godfather. It gave me this kind of a feel of the of the mafia, of the kind of a New York street, and because I'm sorry, I'm quite visual, and every time when I make music or when I was practicing, when I was classically training and practicing, I always made a visual stories from my playings. Yeah. That's how I remember the things. So when I was making the beats, they were always having the scenes and the things. And that was the kind of the reason for some of those names. The mushroom, it was another one. M-room, it's basically a mushroom, but it's not about a mushroom like you go and get yourself high, with the mushroom. That was not the point. The point was, that kind of a growing and this kind of the thing. And there was a flood that I like, and Exile actually was also kind of an interesting one. Those are kind of the ones that pop to my mind now. But the funny story was in one of those, I think it could be even the G Father. I'm not quite sure. But one of the sounds came from, I had some kind of a sampled, I had a violinist coming to one of my songs, and then I sampled some kind of stuff, and then I transposed it in my sampler, and then I put it in my ES1, and somehow I figured something wrong, and I did, by accident. I didn't want, I wanted to use it pure, but I just totally transposed it like totally down and started to make this sound. I was like, this is happy coincidence, and I was like, wow, yeah, that's what I love, and like, so that's where it came from. And,
I think I know. It's like that really crunchy.
It
sounds like a soda can getting crushed.
Yeah. This was total accident, It was total accident, It was like nothing to it than the accident. And those accidents, actually, I love them, I mean, you can call them coincidences, whatever, but actually, I live and cherish them, and that's why I tweak to have those happy accidents, That make it a little extra. Sometimes you need to go a step further, and then beat crushers and distortions and things, and a little bit there and there, and then you just get the breaking point, or you get something, and it's kind of fun, to find those little places.
You get that fun, you get that intent from the library, man. Like you feel you're grooving with it. It's a really good library. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. Like, it's legit good, because I've listened to other libraries, and some of them, you could just tell it's a guy just sequencing crap.
Thanks, man. I mean, I know plenty of amazing producers and people, not just know, but knowing from hearing what they are doing. And I have a huge respect for millions of people, producers and everything. However, if you want to bring something else, you have to put all bets are off, at least for me. And that was the idea. I wanted to continue with the Uncivilized. I had, Uncivilized M'oods. I had already the Grooves, number 2 volume and combining and all sorts of things. But financially it was totally unviable. When people started, now we're coming back to the piracy, but when they started to basically steal the stuff, you didn't get any money that that was even financially viable to do it. And in those days, you couldn't do it yourself. You had to go through the Zero G and Best Service and American guys, what are called, Big Fish Audio.
Oh yeah, Big Fish.
And
Yeah,
Krypton
ProSonus or Big Fish. Yeah.
Krypton, how you call it in Japan.
Krypton, yeah.
Yeah, those are the places you had to kind of go through, And then I suppose what happens is like one guy buys it and 10,000 enjoy, or 1,000 of them enjoy, from his purchase. I wish we could do the same with beer or something, but it just doesn't work like that. I mean, I don't drink, so I don't care. But I'm just trying to say with something with, let's say, a fish or a chocolate or whatever. The funny part is, to be happy to do something, as I was truly, I was like mesmerized with the whole feeling. I was doing something I love. And when I listened back to this stuff, when I discovered you, now maybe going ahead of the time, but when I discovered, by total coincidence, your channel and everything, and when you talked about it, I got flipped and I started to listen to that stuff that stayed there, was 20, I don't know how many years old, and I realized instantly inside it came that kind of thing that I totally know what I was doing it. I totally knew what I was doing it. And then I looked, hey, now there is the opportunity like this. The market is all yours. You can do everything you want. You can put it there. You can decide yourself who you're going to take as a partner, or how you're going to sell it, if you're going to sell it, or how you're going to work with the stuff. And because of that, I kind of instantly had the feeling that the best thing to do is to actually start doing what you love again, because I had to leave it. There was no sense in doing anything. So yeah, it was thanks for your channel and discovery, because it actually made it actually made me understand why I was doing it, and I knew why I left it, and I never did it again. And I had no idea. I was searching for my friend to show him the beats that I did, because we were talking something about, let's try to maybe make something with, stuff that I was doing for the Finspire. Let's try to make something. I was trying to search to him some beats, and I was lazy enough to go to my storage and pick up my, my sampling CD and play it and try to find a CD player, these days. It's like, or CD-ROM even, I don't know. Yeah. My old Mac has it, but so I was searching on the net, because I remember I still see it in the Big Fish Audio a few years back or something, and then I bumped there and I was like, okay, well, I just put there. Actually, I wrote that stuff, or produced or something, and then I was thinking, like, what do people think? This some guy just comes there and writes in YouTube video comment, I did it, yeah, so did I. I mean, but anyway, it was fun, and thanks for that, because the future is now all about uncivilized things for me, I suppose.
Well, I tell you, man, no, it's thank you for saying that. Like, that's the highest praise I can imagine. So like that means a lot. So because I tell you, man, that sample library is like one of the strongest points of that soundtrack. Like it's the cohesive element that ties everything together, and it's that rough industrial edge that soundtrack needs, because I love the music and it's been very influential to me, but it's as I love Yamamoto-san's production, and I think he's a great composer, and knowing that he did it in 3 months, but there's some elements of it that I must admit have not aged the best in terms of melodic and stuff like that. And it's mostly because of me, right? I've grown as my taste has matured, but your samples are like the strongest part of it, and so it's really awesome that not only that, because when I was doing the research for this, for the sample library, right, I went on Xenon Records' old website, and it's on the Wayback Archive, so it's broken. There's pictures missing, and I just kept on seeing these references to ZTime, right, and I'm like, who is this ZTime? His name's not here. I have no idea who this guy is. All I know is it says that he moved to Scandinavia, and there was an Uncivilized M'oods, and it's gone. And I'm like, this guy just disappeared. There's no. I literally remember thinking this. There's no way I'm going to be able to get in touch with this guy.
Didn't you feel that there was something bitter going on?
No, it was like, because it was like something, the text to the effect was like, yeah, we're sad to see ZTime go, or, something, so it was like, yeah. So it makes so much sense now. So just to see your Finspire picture on the comment on my video, and like, oh my God, I'm ZTime. I was like, holy crap, this is, so it was just like, absolutely amazing. So, and the fact that we're doing this right now, this is it's mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, Max, I enjoy every moment of it, and I'm so grateful to you, I mean, I heard from Colin when I visited England, and he gave me a check for what I made from it. Was it £200 or something? and,
oh my God!
Some royalties what came. Yeah, I got few times that, and that was that basically. So he said to me that the Yamamoto or something. I think in Japan somebody has made a kind of a game music out of it, And I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, when you leave something, you not just burn the bridge. You exterminate it. You make sure it never grows again. And if you kind of, but this was the kind of the thing when it came back, and he said to me that also was used on some other film music and the things, and it was kind of a nice feeling. Okay, at least there was some use for it, at least somebody somewhere has enjoyed and used it, and that was just good enough, But playing back that stuff to me, and reminding myself of what I love, it made me kind of want to groove again. This is the kind of new stuff what I'm trying to think, and come to do because there's a lot of it in it.
Is this a sneak preview of Uncivilized Grooves 2?
Huh?
Is this a sneak preview of Uncivilized Grooves 2?
This is going to be coming. This is my new kind of thing that is going to be probably going under the Finspire, kind of the whole kind of idea and the brand. But it's going to be definitely the Uncivilized, all sorts of, Uncivilized kind of things coming out, I hope, The beats, kind of like the beats these days, they include everything, they include, harmonical content, melodies and everything. So I will see how it's going to be. Will they be just the moods or the beats or something? But I will definitely be experimenting and working with this stuff because it's a pleasure to offer, something that you love to do to the others and see what I can come up with. And that's basically, what I'm, loving every bit of it.
No, that's awesome, man.
So yeah, we have hinted now already that maybe something will happen. Also from the new material. Yeah.
No, it's there's so much news that's going to be revealed in this interview, man. It's got me excited.
Well, that's cool. And it keeps me busy.
Talk about job security,
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned earlier Exile from Uncivilized Grooves, which is another, again, that's another favorite of mine. For fans of Metroid Prime, the kick drum for Exile is used for the first part of the versus Emperor Aang battle, so at the very end of the game. And I love that kick drum. When we talked, I told you it reminded me of Art of Noise. It's just like, I love that gated 80s, but it's like, it's got that extra distortion to it. And it's funny because like we talk about the automation, like, oh man, the automation's so great, but then like Yamamoto-san just trims the first kick and just uses the same kick throughout the song. I love it because it just gives that it's done in a 3/4, so it's like this almost tribal beat going on to it. So the reason why I bring up Exile is that the way Uncivilized Grooves works is that you got your WAV CD and then you got your CD audio. And Exile, for whatever reason, is only on the CD audio version. So my question to you is, like, what happened with the last 3 tracks on the CD audio, and what happened? Why weren't they included in the WAV version?
I have a feeling, from what I recall, that there was not enough space, megabytes per CD. You know, it was probably the technical kind of reason for it. You know.
Mm. One thing I wanted to add really quick is a quick side note to the Uncivilized Grooves being used as a sample library. I'm going to divulge in a little bit of video game terminology here. So,
Absolutely.
but there's a really, really fascinating thing that I want to point out that I think is just really cool. And it's like you're the missing link. That so I'll explain what's going on. Metroid has been around since 1985, and there's another game that came out around the same time called Castlevania, and they both play very similarly. So a lot of times the genre for these type of games, they actually it's most commonly known as a Metroidvania game. So I admit it's not the greatest genre name, but it's some people suggested like action platformer or something like that. Anyway, or survival platformer or survival action. But the most popular term is Metroidvania. Anyway, the only other video game that I know that uses Uncivilized Grooves besides Metroid Prime is a Castlevania game. So that just blows my mind, because it's again, Uncivilized Grooves, you know, it's an obscure library. It was only released for a limited time, you know, and we already talked about it, but it just blows my mind that it's in Metroid Prime and it's in Castlevania. I think it's Curse of Darkness or something. It's so I just that one, it's a different use too, because like with Yamamoto-san, he just chops up samples and just uses the one hits from the library, whereas in Castlevania it's just I think it's BMAS, just the loop for BMAS, just the all loop. And so it's just a little more straight up. But to me, that synchronicity, that connection, like you're the missing link, man. Like there's now, because they're made by different companies, you know. Yeah. They're you know, one's Nintendo, one's Konami, so it's just like there's the missing link. Cool. How did you come up with the name ZTime, or as I like to say, ZTime?
Yeah. In a beach in a Croatian island on the rocks where we swam to and took a sun with my that time first wife from Spain. What happened was that, you know, I wanted to make my own, like a trademark and trade name or something, and I was fascinated with everything to do with the time. And here comes the Mr. Prince. Prince and his Sign of the Times and his band and you know, the American counterparts in the Purple Rain movie, the band The Time. Jerome, yes, and yes. What was the name of that?
Morris Day?
Morris Day and Jerome. And, you know, these guys, they were just hilarious. And, you know, and there was like, you know, I always felt like this little kind of special thing in me, which was like, I'm here and I'm being given this opportunity and this little piece of my own time. You know, why don't I just do something with it? In the sense, like, not just to do with it, but like I appreciated it so much. And I was always so conscious of that, you know, that I've been giving this little place in this world and this little time, my own time, to enjoy and to do whatever. And because I was Zok, or Zoran originally as a full name, I was just a Z and a time. And then, as I always try to be a little bit uncivilized in kind of spellings and things, I put those two capital letters together, and I still have to explain after 30 years to people that, yes, ZT together and small ime. After that, and because if you look after the capital letters, there's IME.
Yes.
And in Croatian language, IME is called ime, which means name. So with me, you always get this little, I like to play with these kind of things. So it's like ZT.
Oh, that's cool.
Like name, but altogether is ZTime. So,
that's cool. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm only just now making the connection, like the letter U's and stuff, and it's just like Prince in the booklet. It's just like, Prince's song titles and stuff. I finally
of course,
get the connection.
it was his way of writing. I mean, I was a huge fan because the influence is what influenced my kind of life, music life, I suppose creative life. Peter Gabriel, Prince, Sting, jazzy bits and things, of course. And the great musicians and players, and there were many, many great musicians and players. But I really love everything about the grooves and the things what were happening from Paisley Park's Prince's kind of production, and then from the real world, the Peter Gabriels in England, in Bath.
Yeah.
Those were the two kind of so in one way different, but so beautifully living and organically, inspiring, and the songs and the things, and two very different artists as well.
So I wanted to briefly talk about production music and library music, because it's always been fascinating to me. Growing up, I used to watch, SpongeBob a lot, and that's very heavily reliant on library music. And so watching SpongeBob got me into library music. And so if people look on my YouTube channel, they'll see uploads of like music from APM and Sonatin and stuff like that, because they're great tracks, but they're not publicly released, so you don't get to hear them. But they're like, this is like some legit good music, like out of context from the show, So, but from what I understand, you wrote a music production album called Nordic Ivory Emotions. I guess basically my question is like, so when it comes to going from sample libraries here, going to like actual music production for media, like commercials or production libraries and stuff, like what's the process involved? Like, how do you get a gig like that?
A very good friend of mine, actually a local friend here, who is a very big media composer, has said to me, his name is Torsti Spoof. He said to me that, why don't you do something about, the music, you compose, you write, and why don't you make the production music, it's like it's there, its world is there, there is a lot of money going in it, and you can grab a piece of your pie or something, from there, by making it. And that's how I got into it. And he had this kind of idea that I would, just do the songs and then offer them, and try it. And I offered them around, I made first 5-6 songs and offered them around, and I got a couple of both of those gigs. I just did what was in me, but I always took visual, because I worked in the visual, making the video production and some short films and some documentaries, but also kind of music videos and some other visual stuff. And I was doing, for many years, I was on the other side of the stage. I don't know if you know, but I was doing the screens for the big bands, here in Finland, and also for Eurovision when it was. So I was doing this kind of, graphics and things which were also rhythmically, kind of playing and visually describing the what was happening on the stage or in the lyric in the song. And there was also cameras in my hands, and sometimes two, sometimes one, and so I was kind of doing that kind of stuff. So I always was visually how would I say, stimulated from the music, and vice versa. To write for the production music, it's a skill that that I respect a lot for people who can do it, who really do it on like many years of their lives and everything, you've got to be very persistent, and you've got to be very inclined to listen to the feedback that you get and improve no matter what. And when we are talking about improving, means commercialize yourself, what they are requiring from you. So you're trimming your artist self quite a lot. And it's just a matter of, bigness of your ego. Can you accept that or not? Like Skodas, I mean, they're great cars, but my ego never fitted in one of them. I don't know. It just, my ego was just, it didn't fit in Skoda. These days it's a different story because they, but I'm just honest. I'm a little bit, maybe thinking that for some people it's much easier to write the production music than it is for the others. And consistently writing, because you need to write what is the trend, what they're asking for. Or what you're kind of doing is, you're using your skills and making the products that will be suitable for as much wider, broader, space for them to sell. It's a business.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it music making? Yeah. But the freedom isn't as big as if you're making your own stuff.
Yeah. If you've just got someone who's like, hey, I just want to emulate this video game, or I just want to copy this, and and I have people tell me that, like, can you just copy this? I'm like, no, that's stealing, like, pretty much. I mean, it's anyway.
But many people do it. I mean, copying things is, people live from copying things in music business,
Yeah.
But that's not, for me, that's not art. That's a skill. It's a good skill. Good skill to have.
No, I mean, I do recreations and stuff. Like I take the time to, I don't do it much these days, but like I used to take the time to recreate music and stuff. And it's fun initially. And then you start, because this is what was happening with like me searching through sample libraries, because this is a hobby of mine. I would like go through sample libraries and search for stuff. It was taking the fun out of it. It was like, this isn't fun for me anymore. I used to love music, and now it's like, I'm like, I feel like I have to prove something. Or it was just really weird. And so once I got back to like, like what you were saying earlier, like just getting back to why I make this music in the first place, which is like just to have fun, just to make it and give it to the world and everything. So I can really very much relate to what you're saying about that, for sure. To get to the next question here, in terms of like hardware and software effects, like what's your opinion on like, when to use hardware and when to use software, and like, how do you feel about that?
Actually, you need to use them sparingly as much as you can, because, they blend these days so well that there is absolutely no reason why one shouldn't use software or hardware to achieve the things. But when you use them together, you have a certain different, they're just the tools. And as long as they bring you to the end result what you want, it's cool. If they inspire you, if you love the plugins and they inspire you, you use the plugins only. I mean, you can get great results with just the plugins. I personally think that these days, hardware and software are on equal levels, but you get certain things in the hardware that it's very difficult to still get in the software, or it takes a lot of processing that you would actually be able to kind of, use it properly. But there are ways that you need to use both and to combine them. I love the magic that happens when you combine them and find your own ways how you combine them. Like, when you are, tweaking something in a software and you get some kind of cool things, and then you push this out through the analog, compressor or chain or whatever, and you lift certain things, something else happens than if you do the same thing kind of in with another software. There's a little different point saturations, a little bit of analog, converters, this and that, and you need to pay attention on all of those things as well. I will probably be doing some videos about those things, so it's going to be kind of...
Excellent.
Yeah, it's going to be hopefully kind of inspiring at least, or shall we say inspiring.
Inspiring.
But yeah,
exactly.
combine and layer and enjoy those interactive colors, even 3-4 different synths or EQs, combine them even if they're plugins, the magic is in combination as well sometimes.
Absolutely. So I understand you're currently working on a new collaborated project called Finspire, And I was wondering if you could explain that to the audience, what Finspire is all about.
It's going to be hard to actually explain what is it all about, because it's actually it's going to be a project in development as it actually happens. But the whole idea is that I get inspired by things around me, be it people, be it animals, be it whatever, world around me, cities, nature, whatever. Musically inspired and visually inspired, but it's all about then being creative with the inspiration that you get. And then I create something, and then I send it to the world, out to you guys, like yourself, whoever wants, and then you guys can react on it in many different ways, as it kind of fits your lifestyle or even that day. So sometimes you can just take what I have given, let it be some kind of sounds or some visuals, and you make something from it, or something compose or something, or you're inspired by the idea how I have fetched those ingredients.
Yeah.
And here we're going to be coming back to the Morris Day as well, because it's cooking, it's going to be skillet, it's burning, because that's the whole idea. It's like when you cook, you get all these ingredients, and some of them you had at home, and some of them you go to fetch in groceries, some of them you pick up from your garden, and you kind of and you take a skillet and you cook it, and that's the idea. So as you hear, this requires a community, and it's basically the idea that producers, composers, wannabe musicians, professional musicians, everybody needs inspiration.
Yes.
And for various reasons, And what more than the inspiration you need is actually your audience. And good luck to the guys who have, millions of people waiting for the next movie or something, that's cool. But there's also a lot of us, here who love music as much as they do, and love making music as much as they do, and maybe don't have that kind of audience yet, or never will. But we could still have guys listening to our music or creations. And that's the idea, that, inspiring other people, finspiring other people to get their machines going and create something, and then share with us. You can share it in any form you want, and you have some audience and some people who will listen to that stuff. That's my ultimate dream, and I'm going to put the Uncivilized G'rooves under the blanket as well. So you basically receive those beats, moods, samples and things, and you do with them what inspires you, or you make your own same kind of idea project, and then you inspire other. So we are basically inspiring and giving to each other these kind of things, and give the feedbacks and collaborate and make each other remixes and for the other people or something, so that we can make some kind of little place where people feel that they actually belong. That actually that plugin that you bought on that great deal, or that hardware that you finally got the funds together, that you can actually use it in the purpose that somebody will also listen to that stuff. That is missing. And I want to give this to people and to see how it is. And I will make videos, and people can be inspired by those videos and make their own videos, and about the gear, about plugins, about whatever they use, whatever rise their boat, or however you call it. But as long as it's in skillet and it's cooking, then it's fine. There has to be a sizzling sound, burning, that you've done something. But basically something has to be created, made, baked, and finished by you, and that you can inspire the other people, and that's the kind of the idea. If I would try to say it in a nutshell, the Finspire is to be inspired by the things around you and inspire the others, and in return the other people can do the same, and you're kind of spreading that vibe around, and creating the audience in within those people as well for yourself.
It sounds like a remix producer's paradise. It's like just Well, it just sounds like a musician's paradise, period, because it's something I think that's sorely lacking in music these days. It's just like collaboration, right? As an electronic musician, for the longest time, I was isolated in my studio, right? And now, thanks to advances in the internet and stuff, jamming with someone and especially in this day and age, you could reach out to someone and jam with them, or work in a DAW and have you guys collaborate on a project and stuff, Um, so, but it's a really different way than like producing is different than just getting a band together and everything. So to have something like this as an outlet for musicians such as myself to like be able to like, hey, let me just make music and let me just have fun. There's no proving of what, because to me, like, I feel like in a way, like, sometimes on YouTube I just get this notion of like, I feel like if you fall into this trap, like, you got to prove yourself, right? Even though it's your art and you're making it for yourself and you're just sharing it to the audience, but then your brain starts playing tricks on you and stuff. So to be able to have an environment where you're just making stuff, just for the sake of making it, I think people don't appreciate, and sometimes I fall into this trap too. I don't think people appreciate that enough. I think people in this society are like, and again, I've fallen into this trap too of like, expecting something for return, in return, right? And so to be able to, again, with Finspire having a community, hopefully, that we can have this inspiration feedback loop, if you will, I think that will help propel it into a successful venture.
The biggest success is basically the individual wish for me that people would realize that take away all the ties, get the best that you can, be as creative as you can in order to actually get something out of yourself, what you actually feel, because that's the genuine you, and that in own way is going to open the doors for the others to see. And nothing more than basically be creative, keep on doing, keep on producing, be motivated, and have somebody to grow with you and give the feedback or something that's going to get the best out of you.
Absolutely.
And when you get the best out of you, then you have the best chance. That's all there is. It's same like studying, like it when people come and for the lessons and things, it's the same. You get the best out of you, you get the best chances to go directions where you want. And as far as you want. Everybody has their own ways. There can be a doctor, doing some hip hop, stuff there, and under the name that he doesn't even want anybody know it. But he can still do that stuff and have a super fun and be part of the crime scene, Finspire kind of in this case, and and still enjoy, his life. It's just a creative process and collaboration basically with the others and inspiring the others to go a step further, to find that gist, that ultimate, push inside what we all actually originally starting from, because we fall in love in music, and get it out to the others to be able to enjoy it. And if there is like 50 or 100 or 200 people, being a part of that kind of little community or whatever you want to call it, a group or something, I think that it's like a full club of people waiting for a song. I'm happy.
Yeah, no, it gives you an audience of people who are there just to share art, and I think that's really beautiful. I think that's something that's missing a lot in this day and age. So to see that being revitalized and bring a sense of community in a digital environment, especially centered around something as pure as music, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, how important this we will see, but I think there is a need for it. At least I find it amazing, to be able to come up with the idea where I could kind of offer something like that, to people. It actually it's so inspiring in its own right. It's kind of even kind of scary sometimes, but it certainly feels like a totally right thing to do.
Well, I think another thing that's I'm really excited about, that another project that you're working on that I feel is the right moment for, is the remaster of the Uncivilized G'rooves sample library.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
So that is something I've already messed around with the flood loop, and I've already implemented it into my next track that's going to be coming out.
Oh, great stuff.
And
thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the preview, and I love the remaster, because there is definitely a noticeable sharper attack on transients, and I really love that because it really emphasizes the those percussive elements of it, and it just makes them hit harder. And I think it's really, really exciting that now that this sample library is recognized now, and it has an audience now, it's the fact that people can be able to access it again legally and be able to support you and everything, I think is very, very, like, it's well worth the 20-year wait, So I think it's I think you're going to get a lot of support for this, man, because I don't think you realize just how influential your sample library has been to a lot of people who have listened to that soundtrack. It's like I've blown people's minds showing them your work with the sample library, and it's just like, wow, this is the missing sauce. This is it. And so to be able to have a legal way to obtain that directly from the creator, I think that's just the coolest thing, man.
Thanks, man. And yeah, I really wish that people will find the use for it and inspiration again, for their endeavors, whatever they do. The idea about remastering was because I want to give the library to people who want to have it, but I wanted to go an extra step and make it a little bit more personal, also for the guys who are maybe thinking of becoming the next Yamamoto, and give them the current, I would say, up-to-date quality, and also give them 96 kilohertz 24-bit versions in case they want, so they can download probably whatever, whichever format it suits them the best. And it also basically determines the path and sets the pace for the next era to come, which is more uncivilized stuff and productions coming. And that's the promise, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing and touching the old materials and doing the remaster for a couple of weeks just to relive the old library. I actually want the new guys, to also embrace it in a newer kind of coating. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. No. Well, I again, I'm really, really, really excited. I've heard a sneak preview of it, and so just to be able to get the newer, updated sound for these classic sounds is just absolutely. It's a great Christmas present. Just the news of it is a Christmas present.
Let's see if we can get it out for the Christmas.
I'm so excited, man. I can't tell you. So
yeah, me too. Actually, me too.
So I want to go ahead and we'll go ahead and wrap up here with the last question. So for everyone listening out there, what are some of the things you've learned from traveling all over the world and, being in the music industry for 30 years and just basically, being around this rock a few times? Do you have any advice you like to give to any musicians or artists, listening to this interview?
Well, the advice what I try to give to others should probably be most fair, if it is the advice that I also give to myself on actually a daily basis, is that no matter what you hear, no matter from whose mouth, no matter which way your life turns, just you owe it to yourself to stay true to yourself. You've got to set up the meeting with yourself and not be too late for that meeting. That's the only thing. You should never be late. Always stay true to yourself. Question and ask yourself, what and why do I want to achieve this? And be honest, because we all know inside of ourselves what is bullshit and what is the truth. When we made crap, and when we to the others or to ourselves, and we were just like whatever, or where we are sincere and honest, Stay true to yourself, because the music comes from the inner side, and if that's not the only true place in our bodies that we have a soul, and you can call it whatever you want, you can call it the liver, some can say that it's kidneys, or you got balls, whatever part of your body comes from, that's you, that's the true part. Stay true to that, and keep on sailing, and skillet and let's steam it. And then you're good, I think. I hope. I don't know.
Well, no, Zoc, I can't thank you enough for this, man. This has been like one of the coolest things I've ever done. To get the ability to talk to you about this and talk about your work, it's just been absolutely a blast. So, God bless you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Max. God bless you all, and thanks. It has been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Stay well. Bye.
Bye.